Welcome, business partners. We're excited to have you join us for our spring workability career preparation and job fair. A few things that I'd like to mention about this fair is it is a career preparation and job fair for individuals with disabilities. So you may have individuals joining you in your booths who might not be ready to go to work tomorrow, but are considering their pathways to employment and where they want to work in the future. So you may see students, so students still in high school, college-age students, individuals that still in their training programs, and individuals who are in the process of determining their vocational goal. So I wanted to share a few things about disability in general and some of the resources available to you as a business partner. So in this presentation, you'll hear a little bit about the definition of disability. Some of you have worked with us for a long time. This is going to be a repeat for you. Disability etiquette, just some general things to think about as you participate in this fair, and then some resources that will be helpful. So first off, let's do a quick definition of disability. So individuals who are attending this fair may or may not have a disability. It is targeted to individuals with disabilities. So that does mean that other people might choose to join us for this fair. But when we're talking about disability, basically we're talking about a mental or physical condition that substantially limits one or more of life's major functions. And I'll talk about that on the next slide. A record of impairment, which substantially limits. So maybe somewhere in my HR file, there's information about me taking leave for a medical condition. Or maybe people knew 5 years ago that I was taking time off for cancer treatment. Maybe I never said anything, but they knew that that was going on. That would be considered a record. And they're regarded as by others as having a disability. So basically making an assumption somebody has a disability and then something happening, whether it be not getting a promotion or other things being brought up where a person is assumed to have a disability. So here's a list of major life activities. That's a pretty comprehensive list. So if there's a particular mental health or physical condition that substantially limits one of these things, it's considered a disabling condition. So that's working, walking, speaking, breathing, doing manual tasks, seeing, self-care, hearing, learning, writing, interacting with others. There are some exclusions from the definition of disability. So substance abuse is covered under the definition of disability. Substance abuse recovery is covered. Now, current illegal use of prescriptions or other drugs is not covered. So even if somebody discloses that they had or are working through recovery but have a relapse and that creates a problem, or you have a no tolerance policy, that individual can still be terminated even if they've disclosed their disability. Now, that doesn't mean you have to terminate them. You could do write-ups, you could offer treatment opportunities, other things, but legally they are not protected if they're currently using prescription or other drugs. Certain sexual disorders like pedophilia, that is not covered under the ADA, Americans with Disabilities Act, and then sexual orientation is also not covered. But basically what that is sexual orientation is who a person is. It's not a disabling condition that limits one or more of life's major functions. Compulsive gambling, kleptomania, and pyromania are not covered. So some basic statistics here, and these are from the Rocky Mountain ADA Center, which is our regional ADA center. And both Jake Marino and myself are advisors to the Rocky Mountain ADA Center and participate with them closely. So 65 million Americans have stated that they have a disability. 50% of those deaf or hard of hearing. And if you think about as we age, those things typically happen for individuals. You may have diminished sight or diminished hearing as you age. 25% mental or mental health disabilities. I think that number is very underreported because of mental health stigma. Whole nother soapbox presentation. If you want to know more about this, please reach out to me. 2% wheelchair users, which is interesting because our universal sign for disability is a wheelchair. The states with the least and most reported disabilities, Utah, 9.8% of our population has a disability. West Virginia has 20.5% stating they have a disability. The poverty rate for individuals with disabilities is still very high. So 28% for people with disabilities versus 13% for those without disabilities. So as I mentioned, Rocky Mountain ADA is our Region 8, which is Utah, Montana, North and South Dakota, Wyoming, and Colorado. And Jake and I cover the state of Utah for the Rocky Mountain ADA Center. Just a quick disclaimer with some of the information I'm sharing. I'm not a lawyer and I'm not giving you legal advice. I'm giving you best practices. So some basic etiquette at work. We always recommend person first language to start conversations, with the person first and the disability second. So it's not the blind guy, it's Bob, he happens to be blind. It's not the lady in the wheelchair, it's Susan, she uses a wheelchair. Recognize that there are varying abilities and limitations for the full gamut of disability. And when we're talking disability, we're talking the spectrum. So somebody who may have been born with a disability to somebody who became disabled through a life event, accident, injury, or illness. Disability is the only minority group that any of us could enter at any time. And then that spectrum of ability. So somebody who may never work to somebody who's entry level their entire life to somebody who has a doctorate degree and is a CEO of a company. It's a very full spectrum, and you'll see that in the job fair today. Another thing about person first language is it's important to know that person first language is a place to start. But once you have a relationship with somebody, it's always important to ask, how do you prefer we talk about your disability, or how do you prefer I refer to your disabling condition? Also avoid assumptions about needs, abilities, or limitations. One person with a particular diagnosis like depression is just that, one person with depression. So what might work for them might not work for somebody else. Always ask before helping, be sensitive about physical contact, apply basic courtesies to all, and relax. So some specific disabilities, just quickly, I'm going to go through these. So for mobility impairments, just remember that their mobility devices are part of their personal space. Don't lean on them. Don't push them unless it's an emergency. You may want to bring yourself down to eye level. Some individuals with disabilities prefer that, who use wheelchairs. Others could care less. And it might be okay to ask, do you prefer that I have a seat when I'm talking with you? Adjust equipment and supplies to fit within their reach. Remove clutter and prevent any tripping or falls, or any incidents where a wheelchair might run into something in the office. Vision loss. Remember to identify yourself when meeting, notify when leaving. If somebody needs assistance in navigating a space, offer your elbow and they will hold your elbow and you can help navigate them through space. Don't grab them and move them. Offer a tour of workplace to orient, and then inform if things have changed. And then provide print materials in alternate formats. So maybe that might be large print, might be electronic. Ask what's needed. Some things about the white cane. So if you see somebody with a white cane and a red tip, that is, they're using that, the long cane to navigate space. So they'll be hitting and tapping that on things to notice what's around them in space. This is normal vision. This is glaucoma. This is a cataract. Diabetic retinopathy, and those spots of vision loss can be anywhere in field of vision. And this is myopia. Some of you may have myopia and have it corrected with glasses. That's nearsightedness. Some things about service animals. And again, I could go on this for a long time. So if you want more information about service animals, reach out. Under the ADA, a service animal has to be a dog or a miniature horse, and they have to perform a specific task for a specific person based on their disability. There is a difference between service animals, which are trained for a specific person to do a task to assist them with their disability, therapy animals, who are highly trained animals, but they are not trained for a specific person, and then comfort animals. And those are just animals that make me feel better to have them around me, but they're not trained to do a specific task. Some important things here is don't pet or engage a service animal. They are working. And when you break their training, break their working, you possibly could put the person in danger who has a disabling condition. There are no breed restrictions for service animals. So it could be anything from a Chihuahua to a Great Dane. It really just depends on what that animal does for them to provide a service. And it is not necessary to have some sort of vest or ID card or certificate. There is no laws mandating any of those things. Deaf and hard of hearing, to get somebody's attention when they're deaf and hard of hearing, maybe tap on the desk, flash the lights, get in front of them so they see your face. Make sure that your face is visible and that if they read lips, they can see your mouth. It's not covered. This is very difficult with the pandemic right now with masks. So they may ask for alternate means of communication or some other way to communicate. Using your facial expressions and body language is important. Individuals who are deaf rely on face expressions and body language. Consider learning basic sign language. And if that's something you're interested in, we can get you connected to our team at the Sanderson Center for the Deaf and Hard of Hearing. Ask what their preferred mode of communication is. Sign language, ASL, American Sign Language, which is not a direct interpretation of English. So you might meet individuals here in the job fair who are ASL, use ASL to communicate. If they're typing in a chat box, you may notice that words are flipped or flopped because American Sign Language is not a direct interpretation of English. So if they need an interpreter, we do have some Zoom options for interpreting services, or you could set up a Zoom option where you could invite them to a Zoom room with their interpreter or have an interpreter sign in with them. You could communicate through the text chat box, but know that you might see some language differences because ASL is their primary language, not English. There's also video relay services and other services that we can talk about in more detail if you're interested. This is a visual of a video relay service. So basically, you call the phone number the individual gives you. They connect to an interpreter, they see the interpreter voices back to you. So that may be an option in this setting as well, as ask, can we set up a video relay call, and then give them a number that they can call you on with a video relay interpreter available to speak. For speech difficulties, give people your full attention. Make sure not to complete their sentences. That's pretty patronizing when you jump in and try and complete the sentence for them. If necessary, ask them to repeat or ask them to write things down. Ask what their preferred mode of communication is. Mental health. Again, I can get on a soapbox about mental health. There are different psychiatric conditions. They all impact people differently. Make sure that you eliminate the stigma around mental health in the workplace. Do you have an employee assistance group? Do you have healthcare options for mental health? Are you helping individuals manage their stress levels at work and minimizing distractions? Learning disabilities. Most individuals with learning disabilities have an average or above average IQ. Allow extra time for reading, training, etc. Ask what their preferred mode of training is. Maybe they need to hear it. Maybe they need to take things and spend extra time reading it. Maybe they need somebody to take notes for them and then read the notes later. Ask how they maybe communicated or learned things in school or training programs. Is there a best way that works for them? Provide written instructions, so having things written down so people can look over those, minimizing distractions, and then providing technologies that support their learning strengths. And if that's a question, please reach out to us. We'd love to connect around those options. Hidden disabilities. The bulk of disabilities that you may run into both in this job fair as well as with employees that you're currently supporting in your workplaces are hidden. So you'll see here anxiety, depression, cancer, diabetes, arthritis, asthma, learning disabilities, personality disorder, PTS, chronic pain, bipolar, Crohn's disease, migraine, traumatic brain injuries, epilepsy. Those are all hidden disabilities unless something happens that you see that comes up with those particular disabilities. Respect individuals and their differences in their disabilities. Chronic conditions often are hidden disabilities as well. It does have to substantially limit one or more of a life's major activities. So chronic conditions do not always constitute a disability. It really depends on the severity of the condition and whether or not they're in a current active cycle of that chronic condition. How to participate. So we have the Golden Key Awards. If you guys have great success this year with recruiting, hiring, and retaining individuals with disabilities, maybe think about having your business nominate or have somebody nominate your business for a Golden Key Award. These are done through the Governor's Committee on Employment of People with Disabilities. And in October, you're recognized by the governor winning as a recipient of these awards. Disability in Utah. If you want to hear from our Disability in Utah business partners, so this is business to business mentoring, please let me know. I'd love to connect you to our co-chairs for our Disability in affiliate here in Utah. Disability mentoring days. So under COVID conditions, we're looking at doing some virtual mentoring days for youth. Basically, it's an opportunity to host a virtual mentoring opportunity for youth in high school to get an idea of what you do at your business. If you're interested, let me know. We'd love to set something up. Workshops and job fairs. So you're here for the job fair. You may not have heard of our employer workshop. We do a employer workshop every March and September. We'd love to have more of your supervisors and managers join us at that September workshop. Hopefully we'll be in person. If not, we'll do it virtually as we did in March. Resources. All of our resources are online. You can find everything you might need about employment and disability at jobs.utah.gov/USOR/business. Please take an opportunity to take a look at those resources and reach out if you have any questions. Some other resources that may be of help. If you haven't taken a look at Job Accommodation Network, askjan.org, great resources on disability and employment accommodations and support. Rocky Mountain ADA Center, as I mentioned, the Office of Disability Employment Policy. We are on social media. If you'd like to know more about what we're doing, you can follow the Governor's Committee on social media. You can also follow Disability In on social media, and you can follow the Utah State Office of Rehabilitation on social media. The other option is to follow me on LinkedIn. I'm sharing resources, support, training, education, success stories, and all the great stuff that's out there and available on the web. If you have any questions, please reach out to us in the Choose to Work booth during the fair, or you can email me directly. I'll be watching my emails during the job fair and be able to answer any questions for you. So here's our contact information here. Myself, as the director of the Governor's Committee on Employment of People with Disabilities. Jake Marina will also be in our Choose to Work booth, and Josh Rodebeck is new to our team, but we're happy to provide any support. Thank you so much for your time.